What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you a $100 or less competitive Crystron profile. Now this version does involve the adventure package. You can pick the adventure package up very, very cheaply, and another cheap alternative that you can look into if you don't want to use the adventure package is a runic version. I saw that being utilised at the UK Open and it just worked incredibly well together. So it is another hybrid that you might want to try out instead of going down the Kashtira route or going down the Azamina route, depending on what your budget is looking like. This build and the extra deck, alongside the side deck as well, will also be included in the $100 bracket. There isn't anything that is crazy expensive, and if you have a very good friend, some of the commons and the lower rarity cards should be relatively easy to pick up, or they might just give them to you for free. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the profile, we're starting off with the Crystron cards. So you're going to be playing 3 Crystron Smygar. Now, unfortunately, this is like £5 I've seen, up to £10 for a playset. It is a common from way back when in Invasion Venom, which is like 2016, I believe. If you have a friend, they might have loads of these in bulk and they might be able to sort you out a little bit cheaper. But this is one that you might need to pay a little bit more over the odds for just to get hold of it. But everything else has just had a recent reprint or is relatively cheap and easy to pick up. We are playing 2 Tristanos. You can play 3 if you have access to it, and if you want to do that and you need to rely less on the Smygar, that's when you're probably going to be working towards a Tristanos more. But you'll see throughout our plays, we try to make it as consistent as possible to get the Smygar or get our access through the Water Enchantress from the deck to the graveyard, and that's when you can start utilising more cards depending on what else you have available to you. Then we are playing 2 of the Sulfurneer. This luckily got reprinted in the most recent OTS 27 alongside, and I'm just going to jump ahead to it, the Citri. So you can get these all as common, so these you should be able to get for free. Like, people will just leave their common bulk from the OTS packs along the side sometimes or not, so you'll be able to get them nice and easily. Brand new common from the most recent set, Supreme Darkness, is the Sulfador. You can go for a 3 and 2 in any type of the ratios you want to, but because of space and the amount of hand traps I wanted to try and fit in here to keep it as competitive as possible, I went with a 2 and a 2, which is absolutely fine because we do play some cards to help us recycle these and also try and work away in different options for you. You've then got the 1 Crystron First Vyvern and of course the 1 Parasite Turtle. So both of these again are commons from Invasion Venom, again way back when. But if you have a friend that has these commons lying around, they might be able to sort you out a really kind of good deal as well. And you can consider the Rosenix as another option. So if your friend has that lying around, you might as well pick it up. But these are the base minimums of the ones you're going to want to be looking for and making sure you've got hold of. Then for the other Crystron cards, of course, we do play 3 of the Inclusion and 1 of the Cluster. All of these were the new cards in Supreme Darkness, so again, you can probably pick these up for free in the bulk at your local shop. Or of course, if your friend just has bulk lying around, they should be able to hook you up nice and easily. Then, of course, you do play the Teratop engine of 3 Teratop and the 1 Tokenton Borg. Again, all of these came as commons. They're all relatively cheap and easy. Again, you should be able to pick these up. Like, I found these commons in my local bulk box for like 5p a copy. So it's like 20p for the entire investment of this, and it's not a lot at all. And the reason you play the Teratop engine is you could, if you wanted to, and you are worried about particular hand traps, work your way into a Gossip Shadow. Because if you've already hard opened up a way to get to your Water Enchantress, or you've already opened up a hard way to get into your Schmeiger, you can have the ability to special summon down Teratop, search out Tokenton Borg, special summon down Tokenton Borg, overlay those into Gossip Shadow, and then it means the first time a monster effect is activated that you are threatened by, you can use the ability to detach both materials and then both players will draw a card. Whereas more times than not, what you're going to be using this for is this is going to be your 2 level 3s to get you into the Cherubini. Cherubini then gives you the ability to send a level 3 from the deck to the grave, and that's when your Schmeiger is going to go, or of course your Water Enchantress as well. Another card that we utilise in order to bridge both the copy or both the engines of the Adventure Package and of course your Crystrons is 2 Tidal. Now you don't have to rely on this card at all. It is a 42 card deck, so you can take this out very easily. But again, very cheap and relatively easy to pick up on. Again, if your opponent bought loads of Rarity Collection free, you can also be able to pick this one up nice and easily. And then moving into the Adventure Package. So for the Adventure Package, we are on triple Water Enchantress, 1 Griffin, 2 Rite of Armoricia, 1 Draco back, and of course 1 Fateful Adventure. Now I've actually seen like the whole core of this being a free Water Enchantress, free Rite, go from anywhere from like £10 to £15, so very cheap and easy to pick up. This does provide you with the Omni Negate. The only thing that this kind of restrict you a little bit is field space, but you should be able to navigate that relatively easy once you know how the deck operates. And that's the flip side of this as well, is you could technically take out this entire package for runic cards, and you can also sub out some of your hand traps for runic cards. And the benefit of something like that is it gives you the ability, if you want to play something like Typhon, which will be a bit more of an investment, you can actually make Typhon, and then you can start using all your runic cards in main phase 2, or you just use your runic cards to start pulling out the interactions from your opponent to deal with detonators, and then also set yourself up with a bit of draw power. So that is the alternate engine where you go 1 for 1, and that could be something you might want to look into as well. Then for the hand traps, of course, triple Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs. Double Ghost Ogre, this is just my preference right now because of the format and the local environment that I take this to. But these could very easily be Effect Veilers. They can also be Nibiru's if you want to main deck them. They can also be Drown Lockbirds. You just adapt it to the environment you're taking it to. And then, of course, we've got triple Infinite Impermanence, and then I go with triple Forbidden Droplet and the one Foolish Burial, because, again, this card will be your bridge whether you want to send the Water Enchantress for your Rite of Armoricia, or, of course, if you want to be sending your Schmeiger for all of your Crystron plays as well. So very relatively straightforward on this one. Another option you can do if you wanted to do it is you can main deck XYZ Encore, or of course you can main deck a Book of Eclipse, which is my personal choice for the side deck, and I'll show you those cards in a minute of what I choose for my side deck, and then I'll explain in the side deck which each of the cards are for, like what matchups, and then you adapt it to dependent on your environment of what you might be facing. Moving on to the extra deck, so we'll just go over the XYZs first. So for the XZs, we do play the one Nova and the one Infinity. Just as a little note as well, I am playing the one Invoked Macabre, but this is entirely up to you. Like, it's very, very rare you're ever going to get this out. But the way that it works is if your opponent gets rid of your Nova when you have Nova on the field, it will allow you to float into the Macabre. But of course, if they don't get rid of Nova, and the only reason that they would do that is because they'll play a game of chicken with you of like, okay, well, if I stop this now, the next song will be Infinity, which will negate whatever I want to drop on them, maybe a Nibiru. So they play a game of chicken with you, and they might go, all right, let's see if you've got this target. And then the Nibiru you, and then they'll hope you don't have the target to be able to bring out the Macabre. But more times than not, this is the reason that you're going to be doing it, is that you do have that option. Otherwise, your board just ends on a fat nib token, and no one likes that, really, apart from your opponent. And then the other ones that are not going to be our synchros will be our link monsters. So for our links, we play the one Clockwork Knight. The idea is that your Schmeiger, normal summon it, turn it into the Clockwork Knight, which is why the adventure engine works well with it, because you don't always need to use or want to use the normal summon effects of your Crystrons. The one Cherubini, of course, this is the bridge. 2 level 3 monsters, make it, and then you send either a Schmeiger for your Crystron route, or you send a Water Enchantress for your protection route. And then SP Little Knight. Then moving on to the synchro, so we've got a couple of different options here. I'm going to show you two card packages, which basically means whatever you have access to, you can put them in. Some of them can be a little bit more niche, and I'll show you them at the end of this particular section. So, we do play the one Coral Dragon. I actually do like it. Like, the discard can be quite useful for you, again, if you're putting a Schmeiger or if you're putting a Water Enchantress in the graveyard. But also being a level 6 tuner can work you into some level 10 synchro plays if you wanted to. And also being able to discard and destroy a card can be very, very helpful. And then that additional draw when you get rid of it from the field. We've then got the one FA Dawn Dragstar, so keeping in mind that when you're making your Tristanos, the whole play is that your Tristanos will summon you a Crystron from the deck, and then you synchro summon during your opponent's turn into a machine synchro. So FA Dawn Dragstar will be the ideal one to go for. This is probably the most expensive extra deck monster, because this is like £7 a copy right now. A bit more if you want to get into super rare, but the idea is we're trying to keep these at the lowest possible rarity to make it as cheap as possible for you to put together. And then we've got the one Samurai Destroyer. Again, this came out in the most recent OTS pack, so this one is very, very cheap and easy to get hold of. I do like to play the 2 Skeletus just for a bit more of a grind game if you need it, but you can cut this down to 1. It's entirely up to you. We've got the 1 Vermilion Dragon Mech, and then also the 1 Quandrax. So this guy also came in the most recent Maze of Masters, and it came as a rare, so you can probably, a friend, if again in bulk, might give you this for free, or you'll be paying like 50p for it maximum. Then for the remaining engines, so keep in mind you will choose one of these 2 engines. I'm going to be showing you 17 cards. You choose 1 or 2, or you can change them up as completely as you want to. Option number 1 is Axel Synchro and the Arms of the Genix Return. Now this gets very, very specific to make, but what I do like about it is the ability of my Axel Synchron to get me into the Arms of the Genix Return. So this requires a Dart Tuner, which is why you play the Axel Synchron, and the idea is that during your opponent's turn, what you will do is when they trigger the Tristanos, is you utilize Tristanos, wherever it may be, right at the top, And you'll bring out any of your level 3s, which will work you into the Axel Synchro. And then your Axel Synchro plus a level 5, meaning you need to leave either your Sulfador or the Sulfoneer on the field, will work you into the Gen X of return. And the benefit of this one is by the time you make that, you'll already be guaranteed to have a Dark in the grave because of the Axel Synchron. You'll have a Water in the form of the Crystron Smyger. And then if you were lucky enough as well, you will also have Cherubini, which will be a Dark. You can also work your way into having other lights in the graveyard, other waters, or even winds, earths, you name it, depending on what you've tried to make. So I like this as an option, but it is very, very particular because it is, I need to leave a Sulfoneer or a Sulfador on the field, and you're only going to be doing that if you already have your Infinity, because there's no way if you can get 2 level 5s on the field that you're not going to go into a Cyber Dragon Nova into Infinity. So that's why this one is a little bit more niche, but I just really do like the Return 0 as a kind of cool card. The one that is a little bit more down the alley and a little bit more effective for you is the ability of going into the Crystron Quandax and then work your way into the Adamantipated Dragite. Now the way this works is, again, you'll be using Tristanos, but Tristanos this time will summon out one of your level 2 Crystrons. Now again, this does get slightly specific because it depends on if you've already gone through it or not. Once I get to it, you'll get into your Tortoise. Now, by being able to go into the Tortoise, again, very, very specific to do this. You can, of course, use your Citri, but Citri, again, will need another level 2. And it does get more consistent going down into your Quandax if you do use the runic version, because obviously they start bringing out level 2s a lot easier. But the idea is you'll use these two. This will give you grind state for the next turn. But you'd use both of these, you go into the Quandax, and the reason you do this is this then means you can go into any Synchro monster when you use this effect. And what you would do is you would use the level 4 token from your adventure package, which would get you into the Dragite. And then, of course, you're going to have loads of waters in the graveyard, meaning the Dragite is going to be live as in the gate. But the way you'd work it is you'd already have your adventure token, you'd have your Griffin Rider on the field. You would use Griffin Rider's effect, putting it back into the deck. So that means the token is then just null and void. It doesn't have any value on the field anymore. So then you'd be able to go, cool, work your way into your Tristanos, into the Tortoise. This will then go into the Quandax. Quandax and the token being a level 4 will then work you into the Dragite. And then you get another negate. So basically what you're doing is you would use the first negate. You'd then tag out and then work your way into a second negate or a spell negate. And then that could be quite useful for you as well. So from the extra deck, you will choose one of 2 of these engines if you want to. They're just kind of like cool, flex, cheap options to play around with. And then if you don't want to play either of these again, and you might have access to something like a Typhon, you can utilize that instead. So now I'm going to show you the extra deck. So, the side deck. So for the side deck, we have our Malice matchup target. So we're going to go with triple Artifact Lancia. If Malice is more prominent in your environment, that's when you would swap out some of the cards that I'm about to show you, and you'd probably go for something like the Chaos Hunter as well. Just so you have 6 different options to kind of stop your opponent going Malice full combo. The other flexible card that I am playing, this is for the Raziel matchup. I tend to play Book of Eclipse. I know a lot of people do like XYZ Encore, which is absolutely fine as well, because the one benefit of XYZ Encore is it means your opponent can't chain the effects to it. So with something like that, it does mean that the Detonator goes back into the extra deck, or an Abyss Dweller goes back into the extra deck, and it means your opponent cannot respond to them, and you'll always have priority during the draw phase. So if you went draw phase XYZ Encore to deal with something like an Abyss Dweller, that would then stop that happening. So that can all be very, very helpful and very, very useful for you, and that's why if you wanted to, you could take these out. The reason I play these is because some of my local environment play Raziel with Fiendsmith, and having to try and deal, like having to open up 2 XYZ Encore to deal with that field can be dealt with a Book of Eclipse, because they'll have like a Triple D High Wave King Caesar and then the Detonator. Whereas if I can go Book of Eclipse and then start to utilize my Crystron cards to build up and then clear them off as I go, sometimes it's going to be more effective for me. But that's just down to personal preference, and again, sub these out depending on the environment you're going to. I then like to play Drone Lockbird right now. I feel especially if 7th Tachyon becomes in the main deck for a lot of people, you'll start main decking Droll, which is why it's something you could sub out from the main deck as well. But the idea behind this one is I just think it's a really, really good card, this format, and I feel that it's probably going to be one of the stronger hand traps. I've then got 2 Nibiru. You can max this out at 3 if you want to, but I feel most players respect Nibiru, and most of the high-level decks can kind of play around it or play through it. So it's not going to be as much of a game ender as it might sometimes do, which is why I rely on this a little bit less. Obviously a Harpy's Feather Duster to deal with any control style decks. I'm highly considering stuff like Cosmic Cyclones now, just because I know the Odin deck is floating around and some players are on that, and that can be a little bit annoying to deal with. You've also got Lightning Storm you can consider as well. And then the final card I like to play right now is Solemn Strike. This is like my go-to trap card. You can play Solemn Judgment if you wanted to, but I like the ability of Solemn Strike because it gives me that ability to add more to my end field. Like a Crystron end field from like 1 or 1.5 cards can still be very, very powerful. And a lot of players will try to use talents, will try and play around hand traps and everything else in between. So then being able to back your field up with a Solemn Strike can be pretty much the big difference. I feel the more and more Solemn Strike features in people's lists, the more and more people will start to suspect it, and they'll try and play around it. They'll try and use stuff like Harpy's Feather Duster a little bit more, Lightning Storm a little bit more, and then that's when you end up shifting back to Judgment anyway. But the idea is Solemn Strike, being able to kind of deal with one of your opponent's summons, deal with their effects, can be a massive game changer. So that's it for the entire profile, the side deck, and of course the extra deck. And like I said, you can pick these up really, really cheaply, put it all together, and the deck is massively competitive. What I also like about Crystrons as well, and these are the type of decks that I love the most, is those that can be versatile. Those that have the ability to play different engines if they want to. Like I've already mentioned, if you were to build this deck right here, right now, and then go, okay, I now want to try a different version of it, and without having to go out and buy another $200 to $300 deck, you can just go, cool, I'll go and buy a Runic core for like $50 to $60, and then I can just mix around with the Runics plus the Crystrons. You get the exact same kind of synchro plays and combos that you already know with the Crystrons, but then you add a bit more of a control element and a bit of a different angle to it as well, and that really can add a lot to the field and kind of just your playstyle in general. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. But for now, as always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.